that, welcome to the 10/7/2020 HRC meeting, special meeting that we have tonight. Welcome you all here. Thank you for showing up. Shelley, can you please go ahead and go with roll call?
Sure. Pat Cannon?
Here.
Chuck Grigsby?
Here.
Liz Miller? Crystal Davis Dunn?
Here.
Carla McWhirter?
Here.
Katherine Rifiotis Slivensky?
Yes, here.
Karen Honey?
Here.
Dawson Sardar?
Here.
Quentin Tyler. Two notes for the record. Quentin Tyler is excused absent this evening, and Liz Miller will be joining us late.
Thank you. All right, that's a great segue into our 1.2 item that we have. We have a new commissioner. Katherine, I'm going to put you on the spot to, if you don't mind, just kind of giving us a little brief background as opposed to me trying to speak for you. That'd be great.
So I was born and raised in Brazil to a Greek family. My grandparents immigrated after the war. I wanted to go to an international English-speaking university. I applied to MSU's James Madison program, and I survived the winters. And 5 years later, I'm still here. I was hired by, last year I graduated, I was hired by FRIB, the cyclotron, to work as a policy analyst. And I'm interested in going to law school one day. So I really wanted to be part of HRC and learn a little bit more about municipal law and civil rights. So that's and it's just in case you're wondering, my last name, it's Rifiotis, it goes down. And then Slivensky is like there's a love in between. Slivensky just makes it easier. So yeah, is that good, Chuck?
Yeah, that's great. And so you worked with Mayor Stevens a little bit, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, we've known each other for like 4 or 5 years. So it's crazy that he's mayor now because he used to room with my friends. But yeah, so we've worked together when he was first, even before he was elected, when he was running campaigns for the Democratic Party in 2016 and registering people to vote. And then when he got elected, and I was student body president of MSU, we worked together as well on some student issues, city issues. So yeah.
Thank you. We're
You're
lucky
very
to have you.
modest because that was a big thing to leave out, that you were the student body president.
Oh yeah, it just it's not as glamorous as people might think. It was right when MSU was choosing a new president. So my life was absolutely hectic. I don't actually remember much from it. It was just like a blur. But yes, it did happen. Yes, I learned a lot from it. And I just have a passion and interest for serving this community.
Yeah.
And she has
welcome.
a previous committee experience as I don't know, you can speak to that.
Oh yeah, so I served on the University Student Commission, and I was also the community liaison for the student government my sophomore year. So I represented students I went to like city council meetings, met with the mayor monthly, and worked with Annette as well a lot, Irwin from the city, and George, the city manager as well. So I've always liked, the town gown relations, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were so excited to see your application come through, and yeah, happy to have you.
I have a
Thank
question for Katherine.
Yeah.
Katherine, at any point during Michigan winters, did you second guess your decision to be here?
Every single day. I would be calling my mom from one class to another as I was plowing through the snow. It's like, why did I do this again? But I will say I managed to recruit my sister, my brother, and my cousin to MSU in the Lansing area. So now it's cheaper for my parents to visit than for us to go visit them. So I made it a little bit warmer, just make it feel a little bit more like home.
We're glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that brief background about what you got going on. I know there's more to the story there, and we'll learn as we go along. So welcome officially. Moving on to the next item, 1.3. I'm assuming everyone has had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Has anyone not? Good. So I will entertain a motion to approve agenda 10/7/2020.
I'll second it.
I did, who moved it? Who moved the motion first?
I'll make the motion to,
Okay, the motion's up. So moved by Commissioner Sardar. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So motion is approved. So we'll go on. Everyone's had opportunity to look at item 1.4. We have approval of the minutes from September 2nd, 2020. Is there any discussion on that at all? All those in favor of approving the minutes from September 2nd, 2020, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so move. So we are now going to move into communication, written communication 2.1. As you all see there on the agenda, we did have 2 correspondence. Did everyone get a chance to look at that information? Good. And so the first one was from Alex Liesman in regards to the covenant in what was the neighborhood association that was the Bailey's Neighborhood Association. I believe it's from that one there. And it was basically talking about the language that's in their covenant in regards to not allowing people of color to reside within that covenant. And so I reached out to Mr. Liesman and just had a conversation, kind of got a background from it. And then I did some research. I called a couple people who were involved with that. Commissioner Miller was also involved with that many years ago. And basically what the issue is, if you had a chance to really see that, is that we want to get that language taken out. And so there was a big uproar going in regards to that, I believe back a few years ago, and it kind of hit ahead because the way that it's written is designed for it not to have it changed. So it was well written in a negative way. It was brought up in the past in 2019 to go on the House floor. There were a couple of representatives, Sarah Anthony and Julie Brixey, and a couple other people were involved with trying to push this forward on the House floor. I think it went to the Judiciary Committee in 2019, earlier this year, and then COVID hit. And so it kind of, everything got rearranged and reprioritized, and that kind of fell underneath the water. And then from what I understand, it was reintroduced to the Judiciary Commission a few months ago. And so now it's back in play at some capacity for that language to change in the covenant. Without that being in the House and on the floor, the way that the covenant is written, it's not going to be legally possible to change until 2024. So that's kind of where I left that and what I got from that. So there's nothing really we can do really right now to address that letter, unless anyone else knows something that I don't in regards to that. Yes, Commissioner Christo.
Just for the record, it was Brookfield Neighborhood Association, not
Brookfield,
Bailey.
okay.
And also, I wish I could click on the hyperlink just to find out more information. And I wonder if this is something that we could confer on with our new city attorney about getting that letter. 2024 is too late. I don't agree with that being, like, oh, well, we have to wait to 2024. And so I wonder if it's something we can do as a commission to, have the language change more timely. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate them. And I felt the same exact way when I got the communication and was a little frustrated that this was something that we couldn't act upon and do anything, even symbolically by sending a letter of, notification to someone to somewhere to re-energize the conversation. But right now, the best bet right now is it going from the state level down to us, because at the local level, from what I understand, who the attorneys that were involved previously and all that stuff, we just simply don't have the jurisdiction to be able to weigh in on it and make any changes. So that's kind of how I understand it at this point. So I'm definitely with you on that. Yes, go ahead, Katherine.
So who has the jurisdiction? Why can't we do anything? I didn't understand that part at all.
not to put you on the spot, Commissioner Miller, I know you were involved with this before, and I don't think I can really explain it more than what I have from what I understand, since it was before my time and we're just kind of in a more response mode for it. Can you give us a real brief history on this issue and why it is where it's at right now, please?
Yeah, the city can't make any changes to neighborhood covenants. Those are independent. And so Brookfield neighborhood, Brookfield Heritage, which is the neighborhood I live in, is doing a both and approach of moving it through legislation and to change the language in our neighborhood association covenant. Most neighborhoods have a provision, have language in there that says you need, like, I think typically it's like 60% of homeowners have to agree to any changes. And there's no language in our, that is written anywhere in our covenant about how you can amend or change the language. So, which means legally you have to have 100%. So we're in the midst of a both and of trying to, you have to get every single homeowner to write a notarized statement agreeing to the change. And because we're a neighborhood that is mixed with homeowners and rentals, that includes tracking down property owners that are not local and are difficult to find. So that in itself is a multi-year process, and to get to that 100% that began about a year ago. With every meeting, there's a notary present, and there have been signing parties. And I don't know what percentage we're at, but I feel like the energy in the neighborhood goes back and forth between, the legislation says it's one step forward. So it's moving at a both end. Does that
help you, Commissioner Katherine?
It does. I was just wondering, is there anything that council or the city can do to provide resources for that legwork to be done at a faster pace?
I don't think the city knows anything. Like, we have access to all the public records in terms of who owns places, but there's nothing more. The city doesn't have any more information than our board has at this point, from what I've been told. So,
Commissioner Honey, did you want to weigh in?
Well, it makes me think that maybe we should all go check our neighborhood chart, our neighborhood covenants, because I know that when I bought my house, I found the original in my house papers that this house may only be sold to a Caucasian family, and that's from the late 20s. So it makes me wonder if my neighborhood has that same covenant. It's just, I never thought about looking at that deeper level. I have actually gave the papers from my house to the high school for their curriculum that they're creating on the history of redlining in East Lansing, so it could be used to educate. But it just really makes me think. It makes me want to go dig into the Red Cedar Neighborhood Association and see if we have that same covenant. I wouldn't have thought of that until until we got that letter and you brought it up. But it definitely said it in our papers that the house was only to be sold to a Caucasian family. So wow.
I've actually done some of this research for all of Ingham County. I've had a couple afternoons in the records, reading through them all. And I think this is the only one left in East Lansing, mostly because some neighborhoods left it up to the individual homeowners, like your house, for example, Karen, and others had that provision of language of 60% or more that allowed them to change their neighborhood covenants along the way. But it's not the only neighborhood in Ingham County that still has that language, which is partly why, absolutely, yes, Brookfield is working to change it, but it's part of a larger systemic issue that should be addressed from statewide legislation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Cannon, and then Commissioner Crystal, please go ahead.
I have a question first for Liz. Did you get any sense along the way that the leaders of that neighborhood association were interested and willing to make such a change, but weren't sure how to go about it?
Yes. Mostly felt overwhelmed by the prospect of getting 100% because of the landlord issue. And quite frankly, like, it felt like gaslighting fear around, you know, if we don't do this correctly, the whole covenant will be thrown out and who knows what will happen. And that didn't feel really grounded in reality, but is something that I've heard echoed in public neighborhood meetings. So,
Liz, what would your opinion be on if we sent a letter to the association informing them of what the city ordinances are with respect to that? What do you think their reaction would be, and would there be any positive consequences from doing that?
I think it's helpful for our neighborhood associations, just particularly this one, to know that the wider community, this is an issue that the wider community cares about and the city cares about. They're very aware, like it's not, it's definitely on the minds of the neighborhood association. I don't think it hurt anything though, so.
Good. I'm done, thank you.
So, Commissioner Miller, you said that Brookwood was not the only housing association or neighborhood association in Ingham County. Do you know of others?
Yeah, I'd be happy, like, that would be a good email. I'd have to pull out my notes. And the language is different for different ones.
Okay. And then I'm not sure if it's worthwhile, because looking at the article that was attached, it was talking about Washington State passing a state bill to eliminate such language. And I wonder, you know, maybe it would be, you know, helpful to send a letter to that neighborhood association, but also tap into our local leadership with our state rep and our Congress member to kind of help them be aware of what's happening, and something that they can get behind and move some state legislation so that we could address this kind of statewide, so that this is not something that we're dealing with in the future. Because I was reading through the article, it said that it was renewed in 1949, 1974, and then in 1999, there was members that disavowed the language. But I'm also curious, Liz, do you stay in that neighborhood or no?
Do I live in that neighborhood? Yeah.
And so I'm really curious about the demographic of that neighborhood. Has the language prevented, you know, home sales or home ownership to people of color?
Yeah, that, like, I have anecdotal stories from both ends of the spectrum, and it's a predominantly white neighborhood that I think is probably more white than I don't have the exact numbers, but I feel like it's more white than East Lansing's overall demographic. So.
Great, thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the written communication? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Katherine.
So there's no, I'm just really want to make sure, there's no traction or anything that we can do apart from, I don't know, volunteer our personal time to help people make sure that they, you know, to help get to 100%.
It's written in a way, this is my understanding, it's written in a way where, you know, you would think that everyone would get behind something like this easily, but with the way things are, it's written in a way where you have to have 100% compliance from every single person that lives in that neighborhood. And that's just, from what I understand, what they went about before, it just wasn't going to happen realistically. And it's a big process. I think everyone has to get notarized. And so that's why, you know, I was relieved to some degree that this was in the House floor. It was referred to the Judiciary Committee on 9/16/20. So that's the last I got for where it's at now. So, you know, honestly, outside of us maybe sending a letter to the neighborhood association talking about this or up to council, I mean, it's pretty much a state decision, state legislative action.
I do think it's helpful, it's part of why it's gotten that far is because folks from our neighborhood who've continually kept pushing our representative to bring this, keep moving forward. And I do think it's helpful for any residents who are watching and interested in this issue, or anyone as individuals, to write or to reach out or call and say, this is important to me. The more, the more people hear from their constituents and realize it's not just, a few random people from Brookfield, but that this matters to people, I think the better chance it has to keep moving forward in a timely manner.
Thank you. There were about, I think, 9+ representatives that were sponsoring this bill. Obviously, Julie Brixey would be probably the more appropriate person if you wanted to send it directly. I know Sarah Anthony's involved, but she doesn't represent our districts. But Julie Brixey, for anyone listening in, or any commissioners who want to do that, I think that would be the appropriate avenue to go to as far as her office is concerned. I think we'll move on to the next item of written communication, unless anyone has anything else to say about that issue. Well, the next written communication item we had was from Deputy Chief Gonzalez, his responses from our follow-up questions in regards to our complaint summary that we had, I believe, in January, or maybe it was February, I'm not quite sure. Did everyone get a chance to kind of look at that and, get what they wanted out of that? Is there any questions out of it? I just wanted to highlight a couple different things that, I think, and this is why this is important. I really, if he's listening in, I just want to thank him for putting in the energy to responding to us. Some of the previous communication from that office in the way that it has been very short and not as inclusive, but this was a lot stronger in my humble opinion. And there were a couple of things in there that I wanted to highlight just real quickly. Was the fact that the lien system they use for running license plates. One, I didn't know this, but I do know now that when they do run a plate and they do run that information, the ethnicity demographic does not show up. That's not something that goes into play as far as descriptive information, which I did not know, which is good to know. When you know they're running these plates, and sometimes you don't know if this is for what reason or another, but to know that once they get the information back, there's no identification of that person's ethnicity or nationality. The other thing I thought in there that I thought was good was that in July 2020, they re-examined their policy in regards to their efforts in just randomly looking up people's license plates. They made a change in their policy that is really comes from the state, and they made a decision locally to change their policy in July, deservingly so, to not just do that. So, officers out on the beat doing his thing, his mentality now won't be just to randomly running plates. It had to have a specific reason to do that going forward, and then it has to be noted within the report or the complaint or whatever they do when they do the reporting on that. So I thought that was progress. I thought that was good. I didn't realize that was the case. And then lastly, now that they do have a new chief that had just started on Monday, they're going to jump back undetermined time. They're going to jump back into the accreditation of the police officers, status. So I thought those were three things that I just wanted to highlight within that written communication that I wanted to pull out and say publicly. Did anyone else have anything else to say about the written communication from? Yes, Commissioner Cannon.
I have a question. What would your opinion be, and Liz's opinion as well, if we did send a letter to them informing them of our concerns and what the ordinance says and so forth? Would that be well received and viewed as an effort to say we're from city government, we're here to help you, or would they view it as bullying?
I honestly did not hear the question clearly. If any other commissioners were able to hear that without him having to repeat that, can you jump in?
I'd be happy to say it again.
Please.
If we did send a letter to the neighborhood association, would they receive it with our good intent in mind, or would it feel like bullying to them?
You're referring to the previous communication regarding the neighborhood association
Yes.
issue? Oh, okay. I don't think so, but that's just me. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, I sent a message in the chat, but I would like to send a letter both to the neighborhood association and to the state reps, just so that the community knows where we stand, and also just to kind of maybe encourage more support for it to happen sooner than later. I don't really know what that whole process is, being that it's sitting in a committee. I don't know how long it takes for something to be voted on, and I wasn't clear whether or not if there was an actual bill or if it was just pertaining to that particular neighborhood association for the judiciary committee to vote on, or was it again?
No, that's for all. From what I understand, it's for all statewide, for all covenants going forward. So this would be something that would cover the state of Michigan, not just our particular one. In regards to part of your question on that.
Yes, but I, with regards to Commissioner Pat, I would like to just again send a letter just to, help encourage people to continue to push for that change and show some, our support behind their efforts.
Crystal?
Is that something? Go, please, Councilmember Bacon.
I would likely include from Commissioner Miller's research, if you can show damage over time. I think that'd be a nice inclusive. I doubt there's much urgency around something at this point that doesn't show much cause or that it's still creating damage. But when you're talking 1974, that's less than 50 years ago and things like that. If you can, I would include that historical perspective in there and show the damage and the duration of what happened. I think they may have lost sight of it and just kind of if I'm thinking from a legislative perspective, it's probably real low priority. But I think if you're showing damage to people, and obviously that was very damaging, I think you'll get a little bit more traction from the people that you're trying to influence. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Thank you. So just so before I just don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something, Commissioner Katherine?
Just to answer Commissioner Cannon's question, I think it depends on what the letter says. It could go whatever ways, but it just depends on the tone of the letter.
So is there someone that would like to be the point person on the letter? I'd be happy to work with them.
Like Liz being the person with the most knowledge. I don't want to put you on the spot.
The new commissioner volunteer, Commissioner Miller.
I'd be happy to partner with someone else. I'm like in that neighborhood, so I feel like it would be helpful to have someone who's less close to the issue, so that it truly is from a city perspective, not from like that annoying person on Grand River and Hagedorn that brings it up every month. So,
Liz, I would work with you on that letter.
Okay.
This is Pat.
Thank you, both commissioners, for stepping up and taking the lead on that. And we look forward to being able to be a part of that. Commissioner Crystal.
Okay, so back to the is it Gonzalez response regarding the lien information. I am really conflicted, and again, I wonder if this is again a follow-up question to our new city attorney regarding what information is actually shown in the lien system, because given the response to question 3, I doubt that when they are running plates that a person's demographic information is not showing up, because response 3 says that it is not uncommon for officers to encounter a person with a violent past, triggering an officer's safety caution. Notice in a lean system, like I don't understand what that means. When encountering such situations, officers can adjust to changing the environment and therefore their safety. So like that was in regards to asking for the passenger's ID. So what information is showing up in a lean system that would trigger an officer to ask for a passenger ID? If it's a violent past, like, you know, if you're writing someone's name in a lien system that is attached to their driver's license, their state of Michigan information, I'm pretty sure their racial demographic shows up. So I just question the validity of that. And I know that they have the capacity to look at multiple points of data. And I'm curious to see if any of that data is listed that again identifies someone racially or not.
Yeah, I think that's a good inquiry. Just speaking on the passenger follow-up question, as you may have saw if you guys got a chance to look at that, it's really based on from what I see, the training and the officer's experience when it comes to when it's appropriate to ask. And they made a note in there that it's an ask, not an order, and that's how they're trained within their discretion to go and follow up. So that was a response to our specific question that I saw in there that I didn't highlight, but it was something that came out of that report.
Yeah, and it says that the officers are not legally bound to notify a passenger that they do not have to produce an ID. And, you know, going back to that city ordinance of disorderly conduct, and it's like, if you are willfully or interfering with the officer to do, like, it's just so much subjectivity there that I just question, again, you know, legally bound and practices and behavior. Like, I can understand what the values and the procedures are, but what are the practices of the officers? And from personal experience, I know practices of the officers is to ask everyone in the car for identification. And I personally experienced that.
Yes, Commissioner Honey, and then Councilmember Bacon, please.
Thank you, Chair Grigsby. I follow up with Crystal. I was very dissatisfied with that answer. I don't think it gave us any more information. What we really wanted to know was, what would cause them to do this? And just based on what you said, I'm white and I've never, ever had a passenger ask for ID, and I've never been asked for an ID as a passenger. And so we obviously have very different experiences, and I found the answer very dissatisfying. I don't think it gave us any more information than we had before we asked the question. I agreed. What that lean thing, like, how would they know? It makes no sense. They said they want to know if they're in the presence of a dangerous person. And so that would lead me to believe that they would ask for the ID if they thought there was a chance that was a dangerous person. And what is that going to be based on other than personal bias? So yeah, I found that the answer very dissatisfying and very vague, and it actually led to having even more questions. And then when I really have to show them your ID, and they're not actually demanding it, they're requesting it, but most people that are asked something, that are asked for ID from a cop are going to be under the assumption that they're required to do it. And so, yeah, I find it very frustrating and not at all satisfying, that response.
Councilmember Bacon.
I think you have some good points there. I would definitely suggest, I know a couple of you are going to work on the police study commission and probably on forward with that on issues of policing. I think these are questions that could be answered in more of a subjective way through some shadowing and doing some things. I think I would try to get these questions answered in real time. I would look to ride along or to shadow or to see what an actual Saturday night looks like for someone on the commission or something like that as you're trying to build out this internal intelligence. Just kind of listen to what Chuck's talking about, and just from the reading, some of this can be probably ferreted out, and Shelley can probably answer this. The ability for someone to shadow or to go out. And of course, it's going to be, I'm a representative of things. You're going to get a horse and pony show, but if you go out for long enough, you will get a sense of how things really work. And you can actually go out with an itinerary of questions and just kind of ask, how does the system work? And what is it like all these types of things. I think is that accessible? I would ask Shelley if that's.
Sure. So ride-alongs are something that everyone has the ability to participate in with the police department. I'm not sure if they're doing them during COVID right now.
Okay.
I'll text and ask. Elaine, are you shaking your head no? I know fire is not doing that type of situation. Do you know, Elaine, if police is right now?
I was shaking my head no. I don't
No.
believe that they are.
Yeah, due to COVID. But it is a super good idea, Ron. I think it gives you some, like you said, real life kind of perspective, and they schedule you on a busy night, and it's usually nighttime when they're the busiest, so that you get a glimpse of what it's like.
Because I think everyone knows there's two cities, and just to get procedural look at things, and those questions could be answered. You could see when they pull someone up, does it have racial demographics? Is there something, is it linked to Otis? Am I seeing someone's criminal history? Am I seeing something? There's a lot of things that you could probably learn in real time. That was all I was proposing.
Thank you, Council Member Bacon. Commissioner Christo, please.
And I'm curious to know, are there other systems that the officers are using to run background checks or information other than Lean? That's just the one that we're focusing on, but I'm curious to know, because I've known that I've seen where they've typed somebody's information and a photo have shown up that they do have a criminal record on their computer in the car. And so I wonder what other systems does the officers have access to. So I wonder if we can send a list of follow-up questions, and to and I don't know if Ms. Elaine Hardy can speak to this regarding the training that the officers have already taken and the training that the city is hoping to do. They stated that there is no pre and post test, but and then it wasn't clear to me. He said that there wasn't a one-time. This was not a one-time test. I'm just confused as how often, or training, not a test, how often these trainings are occurring with regards to implicit bias. And if the current things that you guys are working on will include pre and post tests to assess someone's capacity to understand implicit bias and like racial equity.
So I can't speak to the training that the officers just completed, the anti-bias training that they completed this past summer was already scheduled and in progress before we started our work toward our cultural realignment. As you know, the work that we're approaching is from a little bit different perspective. So it's not kind of that clinical, here's where I am on this chart, and then this is where I'm going. We are looking at an 18-month process of doing individual work. And so while the police are currently structured in training with only police, that's not going to be the case when we do our cultural realignment. So the police will be with other members of the city staff. And it won't be a police-centric anti-bias training. We'll start our training from it's more human-centered than it is process-centered. So we'll begin, and I'm sure you're familiar with this work, we'll begin to do the internal work first, and then we'll broaden it out. Now, we will take a landscape study of the entire city, but it is not individualized.
Okay, I just have a few, and I'm not meaning to put you on a spot. Okay, you said an 18-month process. I'm not quite sure what you mean by landscape study. I am familiar with the human-centered design approach. However, I'm not clear on what your process for evaluations are. Like, how will you be assessing where we are today? Where are we going? So like, what's the tick marks over the 18-month mark?
So we are initially starting off with a cultural assessment for the entire city, right? So we'll be surveying all of our city employees, and it's the same survey instrument for everyone. It's not police specific or DPW or fire specific. So that's the same survey instrument. It'll give us a baseline of where we are as a city organization. So then our markers are going to depend on, how that information that we're going to get from our survey is going to inform our strategy, right? So we'll take that information, it'll inform our strategy, and then we'll develop where we need to go from there as an organization. So today, I can't give you that information, but hopefully, once the landscape study is done, I'll be able to give you some, what I call benchmarks moving forward from where we are.
And so this assessment that employees are taking across the city, is this something that will go into like a performance record or
this is only going to give us, well, I shouldn't say only, because it's a pretty extensive instrument. And what this instrument will do is it will inform how we're going to proceed with our training, right? And we've got our training structured such that the leadership, city council, and the executive team is going to go through this process in a first. So we're going to tier the training so that we can build the capacity for the city leadership to support the learning from the rest of the staff. So it'll be that group, then leading managers, and then it'll fall out to the rest of the city staff. So our benchmarks are going to look different for different populations as we move forward. But right now, we're working on building the foundation so that we'll know how to inform our process. And if you're familiar with the humanity-centered approach, then you know that's probably the best method to do that, because we don't know what we don't know, and when we find out is when we can go ahead and prosecute it. We can attack it from that perspective.
Absolutely. I guess I just look forward to, the implementation process, and then following up about accountability from, what information you guys find and, what the goal and
you keep asking that question, because the whole accountability piece really is the why, right? It's why we're doing it. So that's the important piece. So yes. And just keep making COVID go away so we can get busy.
I will wave my magic wand, hopefully.
Thank you, Commissioner Crystal, for the great questions and inquiry. And thank you, Elaine Hardy, for giving us what we need to kind of understand that a lot better. Yes, Commissioner, yes, Mrs. Neumann.
So 2 things. I confirmed that police is not doing ride-alongs right now during the time of COVID. And secondly, they only use the lean system as an identifier.
Could you elaborate more on that, please? Do they only use the lean system as an identifier?
Well, Crystal had asked if they use some other systems to check identities. They only use lean.
Okay.
From what I briefly kind of skimmed over from the response was that when running the license plate, demographic information does not show, but they said that with regards to asking passengers or other people for identity, and their ID is to verify whether or not that person is a violent, or have a violent past. And so that's kind of where my questions came from. And so I think, again, it just warrants further dialogue. I think we'll have the opportunity on October 15th to ask those questions. So, but thank you.
Thank you for commissioners. We need to move on. If there's not something very pertinent that we need to discuss right now regarding the written communication. Just for time's sake, we need to get our agenda moving here. And if there's anyone who is not going to be involved with next week's meeting, who would like to have some of these questions expanded upon or concerns about that, please forward that email to Vice Chair Crystal, and we can kind of really represent those questions once you get there as well going forward. All right, so I just want to say in advance, thank you for anyone who was on the line waiting for us to finally get into 2.2 communication from the audience. Justin, whenever you're ready, do we have anyone on the line?
We do have one person, and that phone number is ending in 333. Phone has been unable to talk, and you may address the commission.
Hi, this is Chris Root. I live at 729 Sunset Lane. I'll be brief. First, just a little bit of additional information about the bill you were talking about in the State House of Representatives about the covenants. It's bill number 4676. And as your chair pointed out, Sarah Anthony is the lead sponsor. Julie Brixey is a co-sponsor. It was originally referred to the Judiciary Committee, but it has now been changed. So it's in the Local Government and Municipal Finance Committee now. So that just, it was originally sent to Judiciary, but on September 16, it was changed to Local Government and Municipal Finance. I'm looking at the Michigan Legislature website. So that's just a little bit of information to make it easier to track. The other topic I wanted to mention is I was hoping that sometime tonight I might learn the status of the resolution that the HRC passed in July. And at that time, Aaron Stevens, who was your council liaison, joined you in making a request for case reports and video of a small sample of use of force incidents. And I'm wondering what the status of that is. I know there's been transition all over the place between now and then in HRC and the police department and the council and the liaison. But I am interested in what has happened since that resolution was adopted 3 months ago. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine Root, for your update on that and helping us be able to find that resolution on the House floor and where it exactly is for us to follow up on. We appreciate that. You're always good with the resources on that. Shelley, she had a question in regards to an update on our use of force request that I believe Vice Chair Crystal, myself, and Commissioner Honey were involved with. Can you give the update on that for the community and for the other commissioners, please?
Sure, absolutely. So, right, I believe 5 use of force incidents were identified by the HRC, and that video footage and the information was requested. So since then, there have been conversations about that release of information. And it was really kind of like Chris Root mentioned, initially a response to a resolution that the HRC had discussed. I believe it was Councilman Babcock had introduced it at a city council meeting, and then HRC reviewed it and made some tweaks to it and sent it back to city council. I never saw that move anywhere beyond that. To my knowledge, I don't believe it was passed by city council. So anyway, lots has happened, as Chris mentioned. Right now, where we are with the video request is that I think between Deputy Chief Gonzalez and City Manager Lahannis and getting a new chief, and this formation of the police study group and the future police review committee, that they think it's a good time to just kind of perhaps not forward that video and wait for the committee to be formed with the specific purview of police review to look at that kind of video and information. So that's where we're at with that. And I guess something else you should know is that City Council does receive weekly use of force reports from the police department. So they're getting that information on a weekly basis of any use of force within the department. And also whenever there's a complaint made in the police department, City Council is notified of that as well.
Just for purposes, is Christine Root still on the line? Is she still with us?
No.
Okay, because I want to give her a chance because she did have some time left to follow up with our response. Commissioner, excuse me, Vice Chair Crystal, can you please go ahead?
I'm sorry, I don't think I was privy to the information of the resolution that Ms. Neumann was referring to. And so I don't know if that could be provided to new members such as myself and Katherine, so that we're kind of up to date. And then I didn't know if Commissioner Bacon could speak to kind of what Shelley was hinting at, or excuse me, Ms. Neumann was hinting at with pausing on the resolution and, you know, the decision. I don't know when that decision was made to keep, to have it under the oversight or the study committee. The study committee is not the oversight committee. The study committee is supposed to be forming the oversight committee in order for the work to be done. And that is slowing down. And from my understanding, the HRC was going to continue our work, providing oversight and insight to some of our policing practices. And so that is news to me. I want to know when that decision was made and where is that resolution sitting? Like, is it on the agenda at all? Or has it completely been delayed or deferred until this oversight committee is officially formed?
Can I just jump in real quickly? So, point of clarification. So when we talk about the resolution, we're referring to the resolution that Lisa Babcock originated when it comes to the process of the internal investigation and how that information was going to be released to us in the meantime of the oversight committee. That's the resolution we're referring to, correct?
That's the resolution I was referring to, yes.
Okay. I can speak on that to a certain degree, if I may, Councilmember Bacon. So yeah, we worked on that. We came through us, and then we sent it back. And with all the change that had happened, Councilmember Babcock had decided to not reintroduce that and put it on the agenda for discussion because of a lot of the transition that was happening. And then we had a little bit of legal issues when it came through how that was written. And so it was something that needed to be worked on, and this is the way that it was done. She decided not to reintroduce that and never came back to us. And that's where last we left it. But that's what I do know about that. And I will speak to the use of force release information, but I want to give Councilmember Bacon an opportunity to speak on whatever he wants to say. And I also want to make sure that we give Mrs. Christine Root her final opportunity to follow up if she has any questions.
Chris is
Please
back
go
on the
ahead.
line, just so you know.
She's what?
Yeah.
She is back on the line, just so you know.
Thank you. Councilmember Bacon.
Yeah, I think basically just how you answered that almost answers the question for the citizen on the line. It looks like there was a loose end that needed to be kind of loopholed right there on the back end there. But I think I understand Commissioner Dunn's concerns around the pace and that kind of thing. There's nothing, since we're designing the study commission, there's nothing saying that this use of force review can't take place inside of the study commission. What I don't want is where there's just going to be multiple, this is such a sensitive issue, and you're talking around issues of contracting, policing, and things along that line. This can't be something that's all over the place. If I would like to see everything on the police side housed inside of the future commission, and if we want to review use of force inside of the study commission, that could be something. Commissioner Grisby is on that commission. If you wanted to bring that forth and say that's something that we need to look at and review, that could be done inside of that commission. It could be brought back to the HRC and then focus that way. That's really my impression on matters of policing. There's plenty of we haven't even set the parameters for what can be done yet. That'll take place on Monday, along with officers and that type of thing. So you can go forward to try to complete the resolution, to bring it through the proper channel, or you can see if we can walk it through as part of the study commission as a portion of review of force or something along those lines in there. I would like to keep, I think we're building something out here. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think I'd like to see these police matters brought to a conclusion inside of that police commission and then brought forth, because I know many people in this room have mentioned they like these things brought forward in contract negotiation, et cetera. So I think it needs to be done right and with focus. So that's it.
Thank you. Before you go, Vice Chair Crystal, can we have the communication from the audience finish her call and then we can, go forward? Because I think thank you.
Hi, this is Chris again. The resolution that Shelley mentioned from Lisa Babcock was concerning getting information about use of force incidents that happen in the future. That was different from the resolution that the HRC adopted, which is about use of force incidents that have happened in the past. And the rationale for, at least that I'm aware of, for making that request in July was the fact that the council at the beginning of June adopted a resolution saying that they were going to review and revise the use of force policy. And so I happen to be on the study committee that also, along with Chuck and Quentin, and as Councilmember Bacon points out, that group hasn't gotten started yet. There's no clarity on what its purview is going to be. I'm concerned that there's already been 4 months that's gone by since the council resolution was adopted. In that time period, I don't believe that anything has happened about reviewing use of force policy. And now if the police is going to go ahead with accreditation, which also involves a review of all their policies, I'm just concerned about the heavy load that the study committee has designing the oversight commission and what else it's going to be asked to take on, especially since its start has been delayed. So this is a difficult moment to figure this out, but I just want to raise what the starting point on this was, which was back in June, trying to help the council do a review of policy and get a little bit of information out and looked at to help move that forward, because I don't think there's been any other plan about how to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. We appreciate you, and thank you for jumping back on and finish your call. Commissioner or Vice Chair Crystal, and then please, Councilmember Bacon, can you go ahead?
So to Ruth's point, yes, it'll be nice if we can be provided with that, with whatever resolution that she was referring to, one from Council Babcock and the one that we enacted as a council or as a commission. And furthermore, to Council Bacon's response, I agree that we wanted things to happen, whatever, cohesively, coherently, like to be effective. We don't want it all over the place. But I disagree with it being only housed in the Police Oversight Committee, being that there is no future in sight and when that would ever exist. And also, furthermore, as mandate for the Human Relations Committee, it is our job, our responsibility to review relations between the city and its residents. And so policing practices fall underneath that. And, as a commissioner, I feel I should be privy to this information. I feel the public should be privy to this information. And so that we can better understand what our policies are and also what our practices are in order for this reform to happen. And why this oversight committee is still figuring out what it would look like. You said Monday, decision will be made as to what its functions would be. Again, 4 months have passed. And, you know, people are growing very impatient. And I know this is something I'm probably going to bring up again and again, because I was asked like 2 months ago to be on this and been waiting and waiting and waiting, and still have not received any follow-up or, you know, video, anything regarding this. And I mean, this is a serious matter. And so, you know, I think that, you know, as our liaison, as a, you know, as a council member, that whatever resolution that has been passed needs to be enforced, and there needs to be movement on that so that we can continue our work as the Human Relations Commission.
Councilmember Bacon, please.
Yeah, I completely agree with you if there's a resolution in place to allow for this, but I think what can't be missed here is you see what a heavy thing this was and the laser-like precision necessary to move this through. And no offense to anyone who was present at that time, it likely wasn't. That you guys were have a lot of issues. You were revising code, doing multiple other things along through that same timeline. That would have almost been a single issue if that was the focus of the HRC at that time, to carry that through, and that would, all the pressure and everything would be on that issue. But there's many issues around that. So it's not just to disempower or take away power, it's to allow for focus from the group as well. I think, not saying you're doing it, but the issues that come to the HRC tend to be scattershot and can be in multiple, we've discussed fair housing, many other things coming at the same time. I think the policing issue is a heavy issue. I have no issue with if the resolution's there to release this to you, and whatever's determined through that resolution, in fairness, is what it is. But I think to be more effective, I think the police issue is a single issue. It's that serious of an issue. We're probably saying the same thing and just coming at it from different sides. I take it that serious. I don't think it needs to be mixed with anything else. I don't think it needs to be deprioritized to anything else that's being worked on. I think it's that serious of an issue that it demands its own level of scrutiny and attention. So that's my position. But I support whatever the resolution said, and Shelley can get us up to speed and get the resolution out to the new members, and then we'll move forward accordingly. And I'll support whatever resolution's already passed through council. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in here for a quick second. And I agree with both of you on this. And so the two main things that stuck out to me as to why not now for us to look at. One was the department, from what I understand, correct me if I get it wrong, Mrs. Neumann, but they were concerned about releasing this information and us not having a trained eye in comprehension of the video material and the information that was coming out. And from what I understand, they were very uncomfortable with that. And you know, if anything, they would like to have a narrative attached to it or a representative attached to releasing this information. And the second thing was obviously the transition of leadership within the department and running it by the police chief and making sure that he understands what, why, and where this will be going when he does have this information available. So my problem, challenge, issue, whatever you want to call it, is this oversight commission situation. If we're lucky, by this time next year, we'll have a new commission created who will just be getting started to start looking at some of the different things that here we are as the HRC with the ability and the mandate to look at police complaints. And I thought this was a great position for us to be in to get something like this, whether they're involved or not as far as the narrative is concerned, but to have us be a little bit more qualified in a learning step in being able to look at complaints going forward, to look at some of the issues, to make proper recommendations when it comes to police reform and some of the issues that we have been dealing with in the past. So I saw it from both ways and understood it from both ways, but I still, I have Shelley and I are organizing a meeting and I think you as well, Councilmember Bacon, for us to go in and talk with the new police chief and just kind of really have this discussion and why. And that's really where my stance is on it, as far as, well, this is not going to really start moving for a long period of time. And it's already been a lot of time. And then there's still not the guarantee that this particular oversight commission is going to be, necessarily involved with this issue directly. Ideally, you would think it'd be an automatic thing that we're going to, use of force, that's automatic. But you never know. We don't have a guarantee on that. So that's kind of where I am on that, just to kind of let the other ones know. And then kind of some of the things that's going on where there will be a discussion or a meeting in regards to their decision not to release that. Commissioner Katherine, please go ahead, and then Commissioner Honey afterwards.
Oh, I think Commissioner Honey had her hand raised up earlier, so.
Whoever wants to go first, doesn't matter. You're muted, Commissioner Honey.
Sorry, go ahead, Katherine. I'll go next. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay. So is it just a matter of defining scope? If there was, and I'm new, so if there was a single incident that needs to be looked at between, a city entity, right, the police, and a resident, then could the commission just scope into that incident, and then incidents of footage being released be a part of the scope of the study? I mean, is it just like a matter of trying to define scope and responsibility?
Can I give some input onto that? Because I was
please.
Subcommittee. So Katherine, when Chuck and Crystal and I made the decisions about the videos that we were requesting, the overall scope, to answer your question, was really to kind of look for trends, things like mental health. There were a number of listings that said like mental health check, and then we on the report that we were kind of basing our decisions on which videos to videos and police reports that we were requesting were based on things that were just inconsistent and didn't really make sense, that we just wanted more general information on. So it wasn't really one specific incident. We looked at, like, for example, we picked all of them that said mental health check, because to us, that's a big trigger for police, for these major incidents that happen, where police brutality, where people end up getting shot, and, overuse of force, and so we were really just kind of hoping to get by looking at these videos and reading these police reports, trying to get a general idea of why and then there were times when charges were brought forth, and times where other charges weren't brought forth. And you couldn't really elicit what that was about just by looking at that report, which is why we made a decision as a commission to request further information. My question was, isn't this publicly FOIA-able anyway, or not?
Yes, it is. And to add on to that, Commissioner Honey, is that from the way I understand it, when a council member, which Aaron Stevens at the time was our liaison, when he makes the request for anything based on the representation of our commission, it's not really a choice in a way where you can change your mind after you have said, yes, we'll get this information out to you. Yes, we'll do and get this information out to you so you're able to look at it. But then wait a month and a half later to say, well, we're not comfortable, this and that. You have the police chief change in there. I guess that's to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, this was supported by now Mayor Stevens in regards to it being information that has been requested from the liaison. And it's not really a back and forth thing. It's not really like we're not comfortable. It's really about the fact that there was a formal request made and supported by this commission. And so that's, like I said, when we have this conversation, if it needs to be next week or whenever the case is with the chief, that's where I'm coming from, because I understand, how they feel about it, but their feelings doesn't really matter with what has already been decided. So I'll say that. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Yes, Commissioner Crystal. You're muted.
Sorry, Katherine, I appreciate your question around scope. And thank you, Chair, for highlighting that, and Commissioner Honey for pointing out that this information is FOIA-able in what has already been cited. But even with the resolution I was going past with the City Council and them reviewing excessive use or complaints or things of that sort, I mean, what scope do the council have for determining what is, procedural and officer stepping out of line? I think from, in the past with our current, or, well, I don't know if he's still current, the previous city attorney, and things have been rationalized, and even to that degree, the incident that happened with Officer Stevenson, I mean, we all agree that that was excessive force. So I don't know what the scope is. And I think even to that scope of excessive force, ordinance or policy for police is very subjective. And, I just want to just highlight all of that and why we are here today and having these conversations. And so, I'm definitely going to champion this and be pushing for more discussion and review of these incidents so that the commission and residents are aware of what's happening within our community and within our policing practices. Like, I think this is something that should not be hidden and kept from the public. If this is the means in which officers have to operate to keep us safe, and we're talking about public safety, as citizens, we have the right to decide if this is how we want to be policed. And I think we should have a weigh in on that. And so anyways, thank you all for your previous comments.
Thank you, everyone. And we need to move on, but unless you have something you really want to add to the discussion that you feel needs to be said, I'll give a moment to it. Councilmember Bacon.
Yeah, just to
and then secondly, Councilmember or Commissioner McWhorter.
Yeah, it seems to be just the timeline of all this stuff when we have a chance. Could I see something in how we even got here? I'm big on respecting people who went through proper process and that kind of thing. If you watch how I decide on things, I can disagree, but if it doesn't matter if you did things in good faith and that type of thing, I'm just trying to see there's just holes. I'm just trying to get a feel for how to close these loopholes and these holes. So something a little bit more so I can get a sense of the timing of all this.
Before you go, Commissioner Carl McWhorter, can you help me out with what you just said, Councilmember Bacon? Like, you want to see the timelines to close the loopholes. Can you help me out with that a little bit better?
Well, I'm coming in midstream here, obviously. I don't know when. I hear in July, I'm hearing this, and then Aaron agreed to this, or Mayor Stevens agreed to this and that, and does it even match with the commission, with the ordinance around the commission? I'm just trying to get a feel for were there complaints levied? How were even there's 5 cases corrective force? Is that what? Yes. How were those even? I don't know any of that. This is my first time hearing any of this. How were these even selected? Was it random? It sounds like there was elements of mental health. Were there complaints lodged? Like, there's a lot of just gray here that's just set. To an observer, it sounds random, which is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Or do they have right? I just need a little more context, but I'll support it.
That's very fair, and I know for the new commissioner and you coming in here, but police complaints and really understanding that process to really speak on it or make recommendations, I think for me is the originator for the request and how it led up to where we're at now. And I'll just say that, but please, Commissioner McWhorter, can you go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my level of frustration with this at this point, I think is greatest in terms of, I think the point about this being FOIA-able information, and, this is information that should be freely available to the public. We as a commission requested that information and it hasn't been provided to us. So that's, it's beyond frustrating to me at this point.
I'm with you, and Shelley and I did have a discussion about this, and I expressed those, and again, I'm left with having to go through another step with meeting with the new police chief, hopefully Councilmember Bacon, and whoever else is the stakeholder in getting this information. So I know Vice Chair Krista will be advocating for this next week in a meeting that's already set. I'll definitely be talking about this in the meeting that is undetermined right now at the time for this information. Just to let the commission know that we will be advocating for that in spite of possibly this being something that the Oversight Commission will get involved with. So that's just kind of where I am. We do have to move on. Is there any last minute things that have to be said that haven't been said already?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I'll be brief on this.
Yes,
Cannon.
please go ahead.
I understand the sensitivity to not being able to see these things that are available under FOIA. It doesn't set well. And if the folks you were speaking to in the police department are thinking that we're not qualified to look at it, they're probably correct that we don't have the same level of background, training, and experiences that they have in making those interpretations. But I think we're also, each of us and all of us are smart enough to know what we don't know and wouldn't be treading into areas that we're not qualified to look at. So I think we're as entitled to look at it as any member of the public seeking FOIA.
I agree with you 100%, and thank you for seconding kind of really what everyone I think has a general feeling for. And again, it's not there to make them comfortable. One of the things I had in discussion was like, this has never been asked, this has never been done. And that's what we're doing. We're doing things that haven't been done, and we're trying to get into areas so we can get out of the cyclical problem that we are dealing with when it comes to some of the different things that come with community policing. So I'll move on from that. I think everything has been said. We will get back with you to find out what we can do and what we can't do when it comes to that. But as you know, you'll have a couple of commissioners advocating for that information to be released to the subcommittee, not even to all of us, but to the subcommittee, 3 individuals to look at, talk about, and then report back to the commission. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Really
all right.
Really quick, are you paying attention to the chat?
I'm not. Is there something there that needs to be spoke on?
Stuff to just follow up. We just want to make sure that information with resolutions and things are just forwarded to.
Sure. And I will definitely get that document. I would also suggest you can always look at the minutes, because that's reflected in the minutes as well. So the last time we met since COVID was July. That was our first meeting post-COVID, but I'll certainly put a document together and share it broadly.
So you're saying July is when we can find, July minutes is where we can find a resolution?
Or at least conversation about the resolution.
Yeah,
thank
we can
you.
follow up later. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on. Thank you, everyone. That was a very, very good discussion. I think it needed to be there for it to happen. So we're going to go into old business, item 3.1, human relations name change consideration and discussion with that. I'll open it up. I know, I'll just say this off the bat. As I came onto this commission, it was already a year or so that the HRC, if I understand it, was asking for a name change, ask for a name change. We finally got it on the council to get approved, and then we asked for them to take it off. And so here we are back revisiting this as a name change conversation. And I respectfully want to say this. I'm kind of over it in some ways, based on kind of what we've been doing and how we're going about it. So I really want this to be very specific, a conversation about what we're going to do with this or not what we're going to do. So I'll open the floor up. Go ahead.
I'll talk if that's okay. I echo you. I mean, I was frustrated when it got tabled last time, and frankly, kind of embarrassed, because really, to go back to the city council again, I support the name change. I supported the name change from the beginning. I understand that the decision to table it again was related to wanting to have a broader discussion about what the commission looked like and what our duties were and what our charter was. But because we have so much on our agenda, I feel, it's hindsight now, but I feel frustrated that we went ahead and withdrew our request for the name change again, because that's a whole nother major agenda item. And obviously here it is October now, and we're still not getting to it. So I don't have any reason to, I think it's a lot of semantics to oppose changing the name. It's not a hill I'm gonna die on, but I supported the name change from the beginning. When I joined the commission as well, Chuck, that it had already been talked about for a long time. And yeah, I feel a little frustrated too. We can let it go, it's fine, but I do think we need to decide and move on it. And I certainly don't wanna put it, ask the city council to put it on their agenda again and then go back and change our minds again. That's just, it doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good. So
Mr. Chair.
personal
Yes.
feelings, I wish we had gone through with it before, but we got out, there was a majority that wanted to wait. And so I guess those folks that wanted to wait and didn't support the name change, I'd like to hear from from folks and see if they still feel strongly against the name change, if we still want to wait, do it in a broader context, which quite honestly is going to push it off for even longer. So.
All right, we have Vice Chair Crystal, and then we have Commissioner Cannon. Please go.
Commissioner Cannon, I guess I'm gonna be winded. If you want to go ahead first, and then I will double back.
Commissioner Cannon.
I was in favor of changing the name to the Human Rights Commission. It was a close vote, but it was decided not to. And Mr. Chair, I understand how frustrating that is to you as the new chair coming in, and maybe even a little embarrassing, as Karen mentioned. I think the change is a result of a turnover in the commissioners. When there were commissioners all gung-ho to call it the Civil Rights Commission or Human Rights Commission, some of those commissioners left and new ones came on with a different perspective. But for me, I would prefer we be called the Human Rights Commission. I think it speaks more to the kind of things we're talking about today.
And I'll follow up with, I know Vice Chair Crystal was about to talk. And that's the deal. I mean, with the Oversight Commission developing what they're developing, and our focus will, I think, change naturally into opening things up more so as far as what our mandates, because I think it's a natural process that's going to happen anyway. Vice Chair Dunn, please.
So I was a new member when that was in August when that was voted on, and Commissioner Clinton was kind of sparked that conversation as to pausing, because it was like, all right, we changed our name. What does that mean? What's the benefit of changing our name if our mandate is still the same? And so with that in regard, that goes back to our why, like, what is the purpose of this commission? And through some inquiry, this commission, we run based off the Civil Rights Ordinance and then the mandate that was, or the ordinance that was enacted to, formalize us, but we don't have any official like bylaws or any like kind of code of operation. We have no real autonomy over how we operate, other than what was listed in the ordinance that was passed, and it's quite dated. I mean, there's been some updates you guys had to the Civil Rights Ordinance of the city that happened in 2015, and again earlier this year. But with regards to how we function as a commission, that ordinance has not been updated. We have no formal structure, and I don't see the benefit of changing a name from human rights to human relations if we have not focused on what it is that we do, and why we do what we do. And even to that regard, my, I guess, resolution to the frustration that Commissioner Karen and Chair has expressed is that we vote to move forward to change the name, but also form a subcommittee to look at how do we become a more formalized body and have a clear mandate and mode of operation as a committee, that so that we are able to take on the tasks that we wish to take on without any, red tape from the council or other commissions. So those are just my thoughts. But anyhow.
Thank you, Vice Chair Christo. Commissioner Katherine, please.
So Shelley gave me a little bit of background on what happened. So I don't know if I can motion for a vote, but I just want to have ask a question to the whole commission. Since it was tabled, is there interest of just asking it to be put again on the agenda, or is everyone okay with just keeping it as it is?
So Commissioner Katherine, are you asking Shelley a direct question, or are you just kind of,
Could I motion for a vote to like a poll vote to try to figure out where people are at?
Yes, you could motion to bring the issue back up. I think why it was tabled was that it was wanted more discussion, and there was a motion to create a subcommittee to look into changing our mandate, because that was also associated with the name change. And so I guess the conversation now is there still interest in changing mandates, or is it the only interest in changing the name?
did you want to weigh in, Commissioner Honey?
I do. I think I heard, I'm sorry, I had stepped out of the room for a second, but I think what I might have heard, Crystal, is you would be willing to support changing the name, but making sure that we make a commitment in the subcommittee to still move forward on looking at changing our overall mandate. Is that what you said, Crystal, just to clarify?
Yes.
Okay. I would certainly support that. I do agree that looking at our overall mandate and mission would be really, really helpful, because it's really old and kind of outdated. I will summarize, Katherine, what my understanding of the reason behind the name change. It's really a simple one. The one that I was most motivated by in terms of my support for changing the name was that I think that if you're a citizen of East Lansing and you've got an issue where you feel like your civil rights are being violated, your human rights are being violated, and you just real quickly wanted to figure out, what do I do about this? And you did a little search. I think if you search and you saw Human Relations Commission, that's not necessarily going to be like, oh, these are the people I might be able to reach out to. But just the simple, name change of human rights to, from human relations, which really makes you think of businesses. And, it's just a different sort of, gives you a different impression. It's very simple, but I just believe that would make us a little bit more transparent about what we exist to do, and that it might appeal to more people that are looking for help and assistance. If I felt like I was being discriminated against in housing, and I was like, what do I do about this? And I quick search of the city and I saw Human Rights Commission, I'd be like, oh, maybe I can reach out to these people. If I saw Human Relations Commission, I do not know that I would necessarily feel like those were the people to reach out to give me help and support. That's the reason I was in support of the name change. So I agree basically with what Crystal said, that I do continue to support the name change, and also continue to support forming a subcommittee and making it a commitment and a priority to look at our overall charge and charter. So
Commissioner Kennan.
What those two names say, the Human Rights Commission and the Human Relations Commission, if you ask anybody on the street what do they mean, I think the Human Rights Commission is taken more seriously as an entity that deals with the rights of people that need to be protected, and Human Relations Committee might be interpreted as a dating entity. And I think the Human Rights Commission is a name that is closer to addressing who we are, what we do, and why we do it.
Vice Chair Christo.
Right. If there's no further discussion, I would like to make a motion to vote to change our our name from human relations to human rights with the contingency or the intentionality of forming the subcommittee to focus on our mandate. I do want to note that from my correspondence with Ms. Neumann, that since we don't have a formal bylaw, our mandate and or authority is assigned to us under Section 2 of the City Charter, Section 2.362. But to come up with to establish a formal bylaw, we will have to work on a resolution that might impact other committees, or we could just tackle it from our commission as a whole, working on a resolution to present to City Council so that we can change our structure and function and mandate overall. Because any changes that we wish to make, I mean, we don't really have any authority to adopt bylaws. Like it all has to go through council. So it's some heavy lifting and some researching that we'll have to do. But I don't know if that's a commitment or the will of this commission. So I'm curious to see if there's discussion on whether or not to do either or to do both in.
Commissioner Bacon, please go ahead. Or excuse me, Councilmember Bacon. I'm sorry about
Thank
that.
you. We do a lot of things that are symbolic, and I think this is kind of where we get wrapped around the axle. Is if the name change and Commissioner Cannon made great points around the name change. If that's the point of making you more accessible and easier to find when you have these outside issues, I wouldn't bog it down with the need with the bylaws. If you want to do something, or the HRC has a mandate and is unable to adopt the bylaws, if you want to add provisions and do these changes, and that's two separate things. I think this is where the hangup's happening here. You're putting, that's pork. Like if you want to do the name change and then there's symbolism to it and it makes it more effective out there, and then you do that, and then you come back and attack. This is how this is how nothing gets done. And this is how you're sitting here. If you want, that's great. We'll support it. And then come back, and if there's some changes you want to your provisions or do that kind of thing, you bring that to council and do that to start breaking these things into, you're trying to eat the elephant a little bit with too many bites. I think it's a great consideration, and I support you either way, but I wouldn't link those things. I don't think it helps with the process. So
I appreciate that, Councilmember Bacon, and with all due respect, I said exactly that in regards to, not as eloquently as you did. Maybe we would have a different outcome, but I'm with you on that. I think right now, I think there's a proposed motion on the floor to go forward with the name change in attachment with creating a subcommittee in regards to making maybe some suggestions and changes to what our mandate and focus is going forward. Is that what I understand what the motion is from you, Katherine? Commissioner Katherine?
It was Crystal.
Or excuse me, Crystal. Vice Chair Crystal.
I said if it's helpful, yeah, essentially yes. But if it's helpful to separate the two, I support that. So I will first make a motion to vote on the name change from human relations to human rights. And then my second motion would be to vote to create a subcommittee to focus on the HRC mandate under the new name change.
All right, let's tackle this one at a time. So for the very first motion, is there a second? Okay, now, and that motion is for us in regards to changing our name only in a symbolic gesture. And there is a second by Commissioner Katherine. Is there any more discussion on that particular motion?
Yeah, can I offer a friendly amendment just on the point that really what we're doing here is requesting that council take this up. Again, we don't have the authority to change our name. So really what we're asking is that council consider the name change. So I don't know how we reword the.
Well noted. So the motion on the floor is to ask council for permission for us to change our name in a symbolic fashion to the Human Rights Commission in regards to our identity. Commissioner Katherine.
So was it a resolution that they tabled? What did they table? Or just the vote?
It was just a recommendation that we're asking for us to be called something else. And
now our motion is for them to reconsider the same question.
Embarrassingly so, yes, that's correct.
Is there a way that we can decorate it to look a little different?
But yeah, I mean, and again, I think Commissioner Cannon made a great point. I mean, we just had some fresh perspectives and new people here wanting to kind of do it the right way, well intent, and we just kind of got bogged down. Even though we are where we are now, I think it's okay that we're here. I just want to get to a point where we're going to do something about this or not, and not see it on the agenda in regards to just that part of it. And I think if there's no other discussion, I think we can now open it up to a vote. Is that okay with everyone that I'm looking at here?
Yes.
Shelley, is it more appropriate for this type of vote to be a roll call vote? You're muted too, by the way.
I can do that. So we're voting on, the motion is ask City Council to reconsider and consider the HRC's recommendation to change their name from the Human Relations Commission to the Human Rights Commission. So Pat Cannon.
Yes.
Chuck Grigsby.
Yes.
Liz Miller.
Yes.
Crystal Davis Dunn.
Yes.
Carla McWhirter.
Yes.
Katherine.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Dawson.
Yes.
All yeas.
So moved. Shelley, thank you. And we'll send that along for, when's the next council meeting? You know, by off the top of your head?
The next one's a discussion only, so it wouldn't be on that one. Perhaps the 20th.
Okay. And is that something that you'll actually discuss, Councilman Bacon, or will that just be on the consent agenda? How would that go?
Well, I believe since it's a change to the ordinance that they have to introduce it. So there are steps to go through. I think they might have introduced it at a meeting. So I'm going to have to go back and take a look. It's an ordinance change.
Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you, commissioners, for re-looking at this and having the patience in regards to what we represent and where we are going forward with. Let's move on to the second motion, and correct me if so the second motion is to entertain a subcommittee in regards to looking at our ordinance and our mandate going forward and having that ad hoc commission report back to the committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
You'd be requesting changes to the provisions to council once you decide.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second? No, I can't second.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Honey. Is there any discussion on what this will look like and how to go forward? Commissioner Katherine.
So we can't have bylaws, right? Because the city has the authority as with its ordinances. We're not an independent governing body, all that jazz.
Correct.
So with that, what guidance more is the commission or the commissioners that were here before are seeking that needs to be in writing? What's the yearning for more guidance? I guess that's my question.
Sometimes I get people's questions wrong, but I think with why this is kind of a good time is because with this oversight commission that's going to be developing going forward, some of their responsibilities or their mandate that we have followed traditionally will be under that commission's mandate. And so then that gave us an opportunity to kind of look at what we're doing now, what we'll be doing forward, and what have we been doing for the last year and a half. And without COVID being involved in there, we've been pretty, as Councilmember Bacon said, we've been pretty all over the place, just attacking different things. And just for a side note, right now, this committee has been busier tackling things more so than any other time in the history of this, since this thing's been put together. So yeah, we are kind of really doing a lot of different things. And I think some of that is coming from now, all right, so if we're going to open this thing up, how we're going to do it, if we got this new commission being developed here, and that's going to be off our table, if you will, with some of the different things that's going forward, how do we look at that and how we go forward? So I think hopefully that captures some of your question. Is anyone else want to add anything to that? Councilmember Bacon.
I think it's probably a good time with having new members, and definitely with the addition of Katherine as what really drew me in her interview is her as a parliamentarian, to just review section 2-362 and just kind of figure out, you have a fair amount of power right now, and how that's, and maybe it's where you want it appropriated or what you want done to it, and probably a thorough review of your already existing powers. And that could be something to just see if there may be elements in there that haven't really been reviewed, and that would be having new members and that kind of thing, just really getting a firm handle on what it already says. And I'm sure everyone's maybe read it, but maybe never really dug into it and drilled down into the powers that you already have. So
thank you, Councilmember Bacon. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
Just a question of you, Chuck. This is Pat.
Please, Commissioner Kennan, and then Vice Chair Crystal.
When this comes before the council, will you be there to tell them that we mean it this time?
I'll be there.
Okay.
I got you.
Oh, I just wanted to note that, I mean, I am a new member as of August, so I have 3 meetings now under my belt. And so when I got my binder from Mrs. Neumann, I was really confused. And I don't know, Katherine, if you had this experience, if you had to pick it up, but it was just a lot of ordinance cited. And I had to go through, and I realized that it was the ordinance that was here were just like amended or updated ordinances, and like with language change, but not really clear on what our actual focus or mandate is. And it's all really structured around the original ordinance and the civil rights ordinance. So it's just confusing as to what our essential duties or focus is. And that I just feel like I desire more structure. And there was discussion around what is our actual quorum, structures of subcommittee, if 3 or more, 4 or more. So I desire more structure. And so that is my reason for wanting to review our current mandate and ordinance, and to create a more formalized structure so that members coming in can kind of know where to find information, what it is that we're actually doing, and what is that chain of command, how our power structure flows from our committee. And so I don't know if that's the desire of the rest of the commission. It will require a lot of heavy lifting. Fortunately, because I sit on a committee of other governments, I have insight on other resolutions and access to those documents. And so I feel competent to be able to take on this task. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but hence why, we're having discussion and going for a vote.
Commissioner Honey.
Well, I'm willing to support the formation of the subcommittee, but I just want to make sure that totally appreciate it. Sounds like, Crystal, you're very willing to participate in that. I personally do not have the time to take on another subcommittee. So I just want to make sure before we decide to form a subcommittee, we have at least 2 or 3 members that are willing to serve. So can we just informally say if there's a couple people that want to take this on with Crystal? Not that I don't think it's important, Crystal. I know that I'm personally totally bogged down in my life right now with the election coming up and all of that. So it sounds like Katherine and Crystal are both willing, and maybe it could be a subcommittee of 2 if no one else is willing. I just want to make sure we had at least a couple people willing to want to do this right now.
So effectively what you're doing is you can consider these sort of like bylaws, but different. Usually there's not a lot of competition for who leads a group like this. So I appreciate you leaping forward and volunteering to take this on.
Thank you. And it sounds like we have got to a great point in that discussion that I think we can move on and do, maybe we should just do a roll call vote on the subcommittee ad hoc commission. Shelley, if you don't mind, so that way we can have it be very clear on the decision to do that, because again, as everyone has talked about, it's not going to be easy task, and it's something that I personally cannot take on right now myself. So as long as there's a couple people who are willing to do that, we got some fresh blood on the commission, and we got Crystal who's on it, and this is what she likes to do. So I definitely will look forward to the results of that. So can we get a roll call vote on forming the subcommittee in regards to, how did you say it, Councilman Bacon, making new provisions for council to look at, to approve for us to change and look at our mandate? Is that
sounds
correct?
effective. I would run that past Shelley.
Right, but so you're forming a subcommittee to take a look at the ordinance, specifically the ordinance, that section number that you cited. Crystal, you cited it, right?
Yes.
That would be, you would make recommendations, but it would be recommendations to this group, the HRC.
To vote on.
Okay, not council.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Thank
we're
you.
not to that point at all.
Thank you.
It's just a subcommittee
you.
to look at the ordinance that you function under.
All right. So just for, can you just re-say it for us, please, Shelley?
Well,
So we can.
and actually, I don't believe there even has to be a motion to form a subcommittee.
Oh, okay.
Am I
Right.
wrong there?
I
Kath?
thought there was, but
A motion to form a subcommittee?
We don't have bylaws, so no.
We'll take your word on it, Shelley.
No, I don't know.
Well, parliamentary procedures, yeah.
Okay,
I think we do. I think we do.
Very
I
good.
think it
So
has to
it's
be
a
a roll
decision.
call.
So every decision needs a motion, but not every decision needs a roll call vote.
right.
Correct.
Like a
So-
roll call, Chuck.
I would just, please.
Okay. Commissioner Cannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Grigsby,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner McWhirter,
Yes.
Commissioner Rifiotis Slivensky,
Yes.
Commissioner Honey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sardar.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it passes. And then so right now we have two, yes, Councilman Bacon.
And just, I just didn't want to get lost in the wash. I would definitely recommend a review of section 2-362 for older members and the newer members as a starting point. Kind of measured twice, cut once before you begin your process across that. So just maybe that, add some of that into your agenda of where you're reviewing what it looks like, and as Crystal and her team begin to cut away at it, at least you'll know what's gone. That way it sounds like there's a lot of duplication in there. I get it.
Yeah.
But
She's looking at me
I don't
when
mean
you
to
said
read it
older.
verbatim, but if there's things in there that just make sure you don't cut anything that gives you your powers and that kind of thing. Just and probably, I don't know what this would look like, Shelley, if there's check-ins or something along the way to see if it's even, when you start pulling at threads. I just want them to get to their goal.
Thank you. Commissioner Cannon and then Vice Chair Crystal.
Yeah. Ron, I don't know if you were looking at me or not when you said older, but I will join the two ladies to look at this.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm
So
volunteering for subcommittee work.
great.
Awesome.
So did you have anything else to add to the conversation, Vice Chair Dunn or Crystal?
Yes, I guess along with other things that Ms. Neumann will be sending out, if she can send out that section of the ordinance, because I don't see it clearly here in my binder that I received, particularly section 23.62. I see the other sections. If just to send it out to the entire council, commission, and of course, Councilman Bacon, that yes, we will, I mean, I don't know who's going to necessarily chair, but we will discuss and make sure that there's checkpoints that we're following up before we get, put the, what is it, the buggy, we don't have the buggy before the horse or whatever, make sure that we're doing things according to, chain of
All
command.
right, thank you, Vice Chair Crystal. So it looks like or did you have more to add?
Yes, I have a third motion, if it may be, and that third motion would be to add the current subcommittees to our agenda. To list them.
To what?
I would like to make a motion to list the current standing subcommittees to our agenda, to make sure that they're listed each month during our public meetings at the.
Oh, I understand. Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Cannon to add the active subcommittees to the agenda for description to show what's going on and what we're doing, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have something to say you wanted, Commissioner Katherine, on that?
Yeah. So it would be just like committee reports, right? Awesome.
Yes.
I'm for
Correct.
it. I'm to
Yes.
end the discussion and move for a vote.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? So we will be adding that to future agendas. And just for clarification purposes right now, can we just say out loud what we have going on for subcommittees? I know we have the use of force. So I don't know what you want to call us, but we have the use of force ad hoc commission. We have now the HRC name change commission. We have the youth summit commission subcommittee that we had going on. Is there any other ones that we have in active roles right now?
Would you count the committee of two with Liz and me to write a letter as a committee? Or just other duties as assigned?
That you missed me with what you're asking, what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Liz and I volunteered to write this letter to the neighborhood association.
Oh,
You're
yes.
thinking of that as a committee?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you guys are getting together and you're making discussion on behalf of the commission
Okay.
and coming back to us. So I believe so, because we'll all look at that letter and possibly sign it eventually.
Yep.
So yes.
And Mr. Chair, one final note, if I could be excused absenting this meeting for the balance of the meeting. I have a previous commitment I need to attend to.
I definitely respect and understand that. I know we have some things that we want to get to as far as tonight's festivities, so I totally understand. And please feel free to do that at your leisure. And we will get through this as soon as possible for the rest of the meeting when it comes to what we have going on afterwards. That is important to some of the commissioners that have notified me about it already.
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, Pat.
Thanks.
See you next month.
All right, so we're going to move on to new business. We have item 4.1. As you all have saw on the agenda, we have the City Council resolution to declare racism as a public health crisis. You have a draft in your agenda, you have a draft that was available to you in the agenda to look at. I will say this, that this draft has been put together and really done well based in its basic form with Elaine Hardy leading the charge with this. When I was tackling this issue and wanting to get council to kind of look at this, I didn't realize she was also in the midst of doing that. And so I had my own stuff. And then when we got together and had a discussion, she had pulled from the same sources that I did in some ways and then added her own stuff that was specific to the city. So I just want to congratulate and salute to Mrs. Hardy for having something for us to work with on that. And this is not easy stuff because there's a lot of different versions of that. And to narrow it down is extremely challenging. So my mindset with what we have, what we're working with as far as this document, and please feel free to disagree with me on, but we have a template. Unless you have something that you really, really want to focus on, change, or modify, and you've really done your homework on that, I really recommend we look at this as a body, and we will have another conversation with Councilmember Watson and Elaine Hardy, just to make sure from this meeting that we take whatever we talk about onto council, so it's something that they have to be able to put on their agenda as soon as possible. So that's kind of how I'm looking at that. So I will open it up in regards to, if you have had a chance to look at this, if you have some general recommendations or comments about what you got here. I see that Commissioner Katherine has something to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions and a couple of concerns with the way that this resolution is written. So I read the Michigan executive order, and then I read the resolutions from Ingham County and Lansing, and all of them had a therefore be it resolved that had some sort of action. So they either established another committee, they established another council, or they directed a clerk to send out the executive order to their legislative representatives. There was an action. And I am concerned that the list that is numbered in the in this resolution is all but stating things that we should already be doing. Like we should already be advocating for, I'm going to open it right now here. We should already be, working with the city of East Lansing and staff to identify activities to further enhance diversity, right? We should already be promoting equity through all policies. We should already be continuing to advocate locally for various, associations to improve health in communities of color. Like, I feel like this is in some way a slap in the face of the community that we're supposed to be serving. Because if we're not already doing these things, then what are we doing? So I have a lot of concerns with that. That's why that we're not promoting or we're not moving the marker on anything. And I understand that a lot of resolutions are highly symbolic, but this is a resolution that was symbolic in so many that was made in so many areas of government. And if we were to but add to this symbolism, I don't think we would be doing our community any favor.
I appreciate that, and I'm with you, and I'm impressed that you're coming in here and you're able to kind of see that clearly. And I had a discussion, and so what are the action steps? What are the things that we can do? What is it creating another commission and this and that? And so I think that's part of the discussion that we'll have right now. But I'm with you in regards to it being symbolic, but at the same time, and I believe Mrs. Hardy feels the same way. What are the tangibles that we can get out of putting our time and energy in making this statement in this resolution? Vice Chair Crystal, please.
To Commissioner Katherine's reservations, I agree. And being a part of that Ingham County structure that pushed forth this the first resolution, I wonder if we can add to that therefore be resolved clause to include and name Ms. Elaine Hardy's role and other committees or commissions to upsee and enforce these activities. And because I even to the point symbolically, I just hate it. Like I what's the point of doing this if we have no real intentionality behind it? And I think right now that how the function in which how we are operating as a commission, that this is what we seek to achieve through our actions. And ideally, I think that's what the role of Ms. Elaine, why she was hired and brought forth to our city. And so I think it to add more accountability and make it less symbolic is to have label someone responsible for this, and that it is going to continue to assess and look for these things throughout the county and give a report. I don't know if it's a way to put something in there where we have something like an annual report or something that, you know, the council will review, or some other language we can add to ensure that these things are achieved.
Well said, Vice Chair Christo. I think Elaine, are you wanting to speak? Please go ahead, speak freely.
So I agree. I have trouble writing resolutions that are performative, and I had this kind of very similar conversation with Chair Grigsby and with Dana Watson. This is a working document. It was put together for your reaction. So I would think that if there was suggestions, rewrites, edits, that's yours to do. And in terms of looking at those actionable items, we just completed a resolution for Indigenous Peoples Day. And we, as a city in 2016, abolished Columbus Day and renamed it, well, it became Indigenous Peoples Day. And so this past Tuesday, our resolution included two actionables. One was that we would make a land acknowledgement, whether it was written or spoken, before every city council meeting. And the second one was a commitment to continue to preserve the current wetlands, meadows, and green spaces in our trail systems. So while those, may not be earth-shattering, they were actionable and honoring of that particular resolution. So I hear you. I have a hard time just writing symbolic language, particularly when it's something so very personal and close to me. And so I'm not going to be insulted or feel bad if you hack that up and, do something that you feel that you have within your confines as a commission to do. I frankly think right now that the ordinance is very long. And if there's no teeth in some place in it, then it is just performative. So I do agree with you. But it was to be a working document.
Councilmember Bacon.
Yeah, there's a couple things here. I think, East Lansing, we have a tradition of being first movers, and we're behind on this. So I understand the need to do something substantive around this and all those types of things, but kind of like Elaine just said, look what they had to do in 2016. I think you need to move this to the top of the pile as far as getting initiatives and getting things done. So it's in place. And then whatever, I think we talked about this in the interview process with Katherine, with Commissioner Dunn and Commissioner Grigsby about making sure this was an issue, very personal to me. It has to have some teeth to it. And I think it's around healthcare and wellness and well-being of people of color and all those types of things. But that's big lift. I think something needs to be in place because you have counter programming out there that's saying these things are un-American and DE&I is un-American. You have a whole lot of other things going on out there right now that need to be countered in rapid succession. So I wouldn't let great be the enemy of good in this and let it get bogged down. You need to get something done, and then it's a perfect opportunity in the way you're working through your provisions and mandates and doing those things to say this is what we want to do on this issue as a commission. We want to ingrain this this issue into our existence, kind of thing. I think it's a great issue. So just those kinds of things. This could be, once again, this could be more than one movement, and don't get bogged down and end up with nothing to show for it, or it's too late to be effective. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Bacon. And I think that's well said. I think we want to get things right, want to get things done in a way that represents the work. And sometimes, we have to revisit it, and get what we can done when we can do it. Commissioner Katherine, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not, I agree with Councilmember Bacon in that we can't, just because, we can't pile so much on it that we can't lift it, right? So I was thinking if, so the last sentence of the resolution is perhaps the most clear, right? Addressing public health disparities due to racism. So if we kind of build on that and say, okay, so what are some public health disparities in our community that are due to racism, right? Is it, access to masks? Is it ability to social distance because people live in smaller houses? So if someone gets sick, what happens? So if there are even like small but very pointed ways that we can be intentional, I would support adding that and making that the direction to our solution, to our resolution, right? So I don't want it to be monumental. I just want it, working in student government and working with marginalized communities, there's always this resentment almost towards performative or symbolic messaging because it is believed or perceived to be done, and then we can carry on to the next topic, right? So that's my main concern with this, that it's, we write the resolution, we send it up, and we took care of public health crisis and racism in East Lansing, right? Like that's the last thing that I want. So whatever, if we can implement a program or a project, how small it can be, I don't know, distributing masks or something, I would highly support that being part of the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Katherine. So I think we have Vice Chair Crystal, and then we have Commissioner Miller up next on the discussion.
I was trying to pull up Ingham County's resolution and then the other ones that we kind of borrow from. And to the point of just changing or amending this declaration to add in that a commitment to preserve the role of the DEI administrator, and to, again, looking forward to the Human Rights Commission to mandate that an annual review or under our current ordinance, that the HRC has authority to kind of review and assess the already listed commitments. And then, I think those are the simple things, the word change that we can do to move this document forward. Now, I don't think that we have to overthink it, but I think in a sense that thinking about what we want to do as a commission, and the will and the vision that we have for our community, and to ensure that 5-10 years from now, they don't, no longer see a need for a DEI position in this community, that, that through this resolution, that role is, is preserved and it's persistent throughout the city, and that is relevant to the work that we're doing, and that to move our commission forward, that we are able to.
Vice Chair Crystal, your volume went down. I don't know if it's just me, but your volume went down. We can hear you, but barely. We heard everything except for the last private sentence.
Yeah, either way, I'm just saying that I think if we can add a few word changes or a few amendments to the standing resolution, that we can give it more teeth, and to ensure that there is some accountability to this, and that is not just an ornamental resolution. So, in that, the preserving, Ms. Elaine Hardy's role, and making sure that that's a long-standing position throughout the city, and to further enhance the HRC mandate by, in this declaration, that this is kind of a duty of ours to uphold the current listed 10 declarations.
Okay, thank you. And I think if I'm hearing this right now, you have something that you want to add to, which I think can be done with a motion just to add it on there. And then I heard from Commissioner Katherine the same thing that she wanted to add. I don't know if her thoughts are formally all the way thought through with what she wants to add specifically, but it sounds like for the gist of what we have, you just want to add two points of inference in kind of really what this does in the as resolved, but it's resolved section is what I think I'm understanding. Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Vice Chair Crystal said. I think this would really be strengthened by saying who owns this and who owns this work going forward, so that there's some ownership and there's some accountability there. And I think DEI naming that outright, and HRC, you know, particularly some of, like, I was looking like 6, 7, a few of those are very much in the HRC purview. So I think staff, from a staff position and then from a commission position, naming those would really strengthen this and give it some teeth.
All right. I think from what I can tell, I think we're all in agreement to adding. So I don't think we need to do a vote or anything like that. I think it's just really you giving your input and adding it into what we have as a working document. So I just want to go back to Commissioner Katherine, and then Vice Chair Crystal, and then possibly Commissioner Miller, in exactly what that is that you're talking about that you want to have in that language. I think Mrs. Hardy wanted to say something on that. You're muted.
My comments were going to be just what your last ones were, that if it would be the pleasure of the commission to see those items as part of that document, if they could be so kind as to just forward them to me, then we can make the necessary adjustments to the document from your recommendations. And it can be edited because it is really long.
All right. So thank you, Mrs. Hardy. I think that's good for time purposes as well. So if I understand things correctly, Commissioner Katherine, Commissioner Crystal, possibly Commissioner Liz, from what I know, are going to get those thoughts formalized in a way and then forward them to Mrs. Hardy so we can make those recommendations in play when it comes to that. Are there any other commissioners who, or if there is any other commissioners who would like to do that as well, you're more than welcome to do that if your thoughts come with you after this meeting. Vice Chair Dunn. Or excuse me, Crystal.
I was just going to ask.
We can barely hear you.
Why can't you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? I'm leaning in and yelling at my computer.
Okay.
I was going to ask Ms. Hardy if she felt comfortable kind of drafting up something, because I'm not even sure what the wording would be, being that we are, as a commission, expressing support to naming responsible entities to, you know, as a accountability body to ensure the enactment or implementation of this of the resolution. I don't know if you could kind of craft something and then we can give thumbs up and then help move it forward, or is it that does it need to come back to this commission and then we need to vote on it and then it goes to council?
No, if I may interject, I think what we need to do in order to move it along and not have it be perfect by all means, but again, send in your information to Mrs. Hardy so she can add it in, and then we'll have a working document that we can build from, as opposed to it coming back here for another month and doing those different things. That would just be how I would look at it, unless anyone, you know, has a different way they see that. You could please weigh in.
Okay, can we quickly draft some language that you guys can wordsmith in the document like now so that we can move this forward?
I think what the body is leaning towards, Vice Chair, is that the language that you want to add into what you've already discussed is going to be sent to Mrs. Hardy, and that she's going to include that. Are you saying that that is something that you don't think is the best way for you personally to go about how you want to do the recommendations?
For the sake of time and to cut out all this, you know, bureaucracy, if we can, as a commission right now, work on these two amendments, just like language, their wording, and have Ms. Hardy copy them so that they can be added to the resolution. So it's not waiting on me or Liz or Katherine to come up with a consensus of language or words. So I mean, I don't know if it's in the interest of time, but I think we're all in agreement to what it is that we are hoping for. I think we can just come up with quick language so that it is done.
Okay, that's fair. I was just given it an opportunity for you guys to be able to formalize those thoughts or those recommendations. But if you have something that's ready to go right now that you can give Mrs. Hardy to work with and Shelley Neumann to be able to document, let's do it. If you can do that right now, let's do it. But if I was saying if you had needed an opportunity to kind of think about how you want to do it, then subsequently go ahead and forward that. But if we're at a point right now where you guys have something you can just fire off, let's go.
I am not in a position where I'm just ready to fire off. So
I didn't think so.
I just wanted to make that very clear, because I also wanted to pick a little bit Councilmember Bacon ahead on the public health portion of it. I know he would have some interesting contributions for that as well. So I wanted to do a little bit of a legwork, but I agree with, coming back to the commission would be too long.
So thank you for that input. So it sounds like you need a moment or two to kind of do that, ideally. And then we'd probably appreciate, obviously, Councilmember Bacon's input on his perspective on that. But it sounds like you, Vice Chair, you have yours all ready to go. So if you have yours all ready to go, we can fire that off, as I said earlier. So she has that one step of that done already. I'm
again, not to drag out this meeting, to Commissioner Katherine's concern, the public health aspect of that is the work that we're doing right now. I think people think of public health and literally think of just health in the medical model. And public health is anything to do with the general population as a whole. And so when we're talking about public safety, when we're talking about education, we're talking about housing, that's all public health. And I think listed items and the commitments speak to addressing how race impacts one's opportunity when it relates to all of those things that encompass our health. And so again, to the language of adding some accountability to this and some type of a follow through or intentionality of observing these things. I guess my addition would be to, at the top of this, to add, it says now therefore be it resolved by the City of East Lansing by the East Lansing City Council that the City of East Lansing will do the following. And I guess it will be to change one to a commitment to preserve. Sorry, Miss Hardy, I'm not entirely sure what your job title is, but the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Administrator role, that be a standing position through the city, and in conjunction to that role, with partnership with the Human Relations Committee to uphold the following, so the 10 listed things, and to conduct an annual review of such. That's not perfect, but in my mind, I think that would fix the issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Thank you for your patience with us when it comes to that process. Mrs. Hardy, did you capture that recommendation from Vice Chair Dunn?
It's as clear. It's as clear as mud. No.
Okay.
No. I'm teasing. And what I don't have captured, I'll just reach you offline if that's okay with you, Commissioner. Okay, and I can do the same thing for you, Commissioner Katherine, as well, just to make sure that once I have included your thoughts, I'll just make sure that I send the document to the three of you, and then you can react to it. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, perfect.
And then as far as the other commissioners involved, you guys are okay with that process? Are you comfortable with how that's going to be done? Just give me a head shake. You're okay with that? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Honey.
I love, because I'm an early childhood person, the part about the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. I'm wondering about, and I understand that we can't like mandate stuff in this proclamation that mandates things that are outside of our control, right? But I'm wondering if we could add a little something in there that would say, reducing exposures to adverse childhood experiences. And I think what other communities have done is by providing information, encouraging, maybe something like encouraging local physicians and, infant mental health therapists to, there's an ACEs assessment that doctors can do, like Dr. Nadine Burke does in California. Can we put something in there that specifically says, as part of this, we would reach out to local pediatricians to make sure that they are aware of the ACEs studies and to encourage local pediatricians to incorporate adverse childhood experience assessments into their routine work with children, something like that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm just trying to capture, and I think maybe others are trying to capture exactly how to do that language. And I think that's why I was recommending possibly an opportunity for you to be able to formalize that in a way that we can structure it and add it on there. But I guess
Are you okay with, I could word that up and think about it in the next couple of days, talk to my supervisor about it and get that to you, Elaine. Are you good with that? Because I have a couple specific ideas, but I want to think about it a little bit more. But that's the one that captured my interest. So yeah, I'd be happy to follow up with you in the next couple of days with some specific language, okay?
Yes, Vice Chair Crystal.
I wonder to not to or like restrict ourselves to specific things so that we're missing the mark of adhering to them or upholding them, but to formally mention ACEs in the resolution. I know that it says like where it has been proven racism linked to worse health outcomes, but it doesn't specifically mention the ACEs study. So I wonder if we can mention ACEs because it talks about the impact of that in the resolution, where it's not that we're going to specifically contact physicians or hold physicians or things to a certain standard. I think that could work through like different committee works to like make that one of our like objectives or part of our strategic plan or something that we're working on or tackling within various committees versus to a specific mandate citywide, because I'm not even sure if we have that level of jurisdiction to require physicians to conduct ACE. And I know from my personal experience of working as a infant mental health specialist within our pediatric clinics is that, once we do the ACE assessments, as a community, we don't really have much resources to do anything with the information that we find. We understand that most of our families have trauma, but quite frankly, we don't have a large enough mental health structure to really adequately support and combat some of the symptoms of ACEs. And so that's been a barrier.
So how about you feel like you and I could get together in the next day or two, like tomorrow, and talk, since you're the other person, the other early childhood person on this commission, and maybe we could come up with how we want to proceed with. I like your idea of even acknowledging, defining what ACEs are. And my idea wasn't to mandate, I was just saying encourage. It's still, I'd like pediatricians to know what the ACEs study is about. And so maybe you and I could craft that language together and then move that on to Elaine. Does that work with you? For you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow. And we'll make a plan. Okay.
And that's awesome. And I think, correct me if wrong, but I think what has been suggested by the commissioners who've spoke on this, I think I could say all the other commissioners are in support of that. And so whatever does end up in that final draft, I think we've all had a discussion where everyone had a chance to be able to add to that or disagree with that. So I think anything that you guys come up with and then send to by Mrs. Hardy would be appropriate in a process that I think we can move forward as the next step. Is there any more discussion on this item of 4.1 in this draft that we're working with now? Great. So what we're going to do is, sounds like everyone's going to bombard Mrs. Hardy with their stuff, their great stuff, to what they got going on. Mrs. Hardy, I just wanted to say thank you for being involved with this. I know some of this is job related, some of this is personal related as far as how you feel about doing something that's supporting the community. But at the end of the day, you are taking on this and you are doing the work when no one's looking. And I just got to let you know that I really appreciate that. This is something that I brought up to council way back in June. And, we had to go through this route in order to get it done in the way that I think can be best represented for our city. And I just want to say thank you. I don't take for granted your time, your energy, and your willingness to deal with us and some of our different things. So I'll say that and then move on if everyone's comfortable with that.
Yes.
All right. Well done. Well done. And I'm just very excited about our new little commissioner that's just weighing in and everything. I was going to say at the beginning, if you don't feel comfortable, I know you're coming in new and blah, 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 you can, deflect and pass and all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad I didn't say anything because I just love that new energy. And that was one of the things we had in our interview. She came, and I think Vice Chair Dunn and Councilmember Bacon can speak on that. The energy wins, and we really appreciate your addition to what we have for our discussion tonight, and we look forward to more of that. We're going to move to item 5.1, Council Liaison Bacon, comments.
Yeah, I think I probably said enough, but yeah, just looking forward to working with you guys, and just I love your energy and enthusiasm around the issues, but I just say, just try to make them smaller, and then we'll just tackle them in little small bites and go from there. And we'll attack one thing at a time and take it all the way to completion, and then we'll kind of go from there. But I know it's hard. There are a lot of issues around human rights and civil rights that need addressing, but if we do too much, we won't get anything done. So I'm here for you, and you can reach out to me offline, and particularly around this this health, and I'm doing some stuff around health disparities myself right now through my company. So I think it's just critical that we deal with these issues. So yeah, reach out offline or email, and I'll get right back to you. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Bacon, and we really appreciate your availability as well as your time. I know you came in here, like you said, at July, and we were trying to save the world with some of the different things that we're trying to focus on, and we have an ambitious crew. When I got on here, they were pretty hungry, but as we went on and things have changed in the community and some of the national issues, we really have an ambitious, excitable, energetic, and I want to take full advantage of that. So we may be a little wild. You're more than welcome to rein us in whenever you think we should be reined in, but we're going to probably continue being who we are. So just be prepared for that going forward.
I'll say this, Chuck. What you learn in sports, you can't teach aggression. I can teach technique. So I'm here for technique. So I don't mind aggression. So. And
the only thing I'll add to that, I know we're running out of time, but I'm an ex-professional athlete. And in my sport particularly, you either had heart or you don't. You can't trade it in. You either have the heart or you don't. And I'll say this crew has the heart in what they're doing and how they're going about that. Anything else, Councilmember Bacon?
Nope, all clear.
All right. So we were going to move to item 5.2, Staff Liaison, Mrs. Neumann.
Thanks. Yeah, so just two things. First, Elaine and I will be participating in second round interviews for the social worker position that will be joining our police department soon. So definitely proceeding, forward with that. So we'll hopefully have 2 social workers on staff full time, hopefully in the next month or so. So that's positive. Secondly, we talked about possibly offering a training for commissioners on Open Meetings Act and FOIA and all of that good stuff. So, and that is in the works. Our new city attorney's office will be providing us with that training. We're working on establishing a date for council and commissioners to attend. It will be an online training, but we hope to see it yet this fall. So I'll be looking for that. I could use it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Neumann. And again, to you as well, we really appreciate you doing what you do for us. I know we're a little bit demanding, so we appreciate your efforts and your time as well. Staff Liaison Hardy, do you have any comments or reports?
I don't have anything further to add. We are expecting to host the kickoff for our training with our city council and city manager on October 17th. So keep you posted on the progress of that initial leadership training that we're going to do to begin our cultural realignment. So that's all I have for right now.
Thanks. Well, didn't you make connection recently with MSU and their community outreach department here in the last month or so, Mrs. Hardy? I was having a conversation with someone, and I can't remember exactly the name of the particular, but they said, yeah, we just got done talking to Mrs. Hardy and made that connection with that.
So I spoke to a couple of groups at MSU. I spoke to the directors group at MSU about our cultural realignment strategy. So I shared, what our our plans were for our cultural realignment with a group of directors from MSU. And then I did meet with, have the first official meeting of the advisory group for the Warden Center, that was established after they had the incident with in their gift shop. It's just unspeakable to me. But so we began that process with the Warden Center. There's a good group of people, and my hope is that we'll be able to help the Warden Center gain some humility around the work that they do in the community that they serve in. So it was just our first meeting. Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I'm fine. I was just, we just had our first initial meeting, and then we'll be meeting again, I believe in November is our next meeting.
Yeah, I was in contact with some people over there, and I was kind of trying to break those barriers in there, and then your name came up, and I'm like, whoa, let me step off, because we already have, and that was the great thing about Mrs. Hardy, and I have a lot of respect for you, is that when you first came on here, one of the things you had talked about, which was a big concern for me, is establishing a better relationship with MSU and having a contact person, having involvement, having someone who has a seat at the table, so we can have an understanding of what they're doing and what we're doing and make that connection. So I appreciated it. So I was pleasantly surprised that you were already in the mix when it came to what I was inquiring about. So I appreciate you. We're going to move on to item Commissioner concerns. This is one of our last things before we adjourn. Do we have any Commissioner comments or concerns? Yes, Commissioner Honey.
I don't have a concern. I just want to talk about something that's exciting that's going on in my work related to equity. We are the Great Start Collaborative, of which I am a part of at Ingham County, have applied for this opportunity to take part in this early childhood equity leadership training. And it's a long process, but there's a team of 5 of us that would be part of this early childhood equity leadership cohort, and it's like a 6-month-long training, and it really addresses the issue of equity in early childhood, which, as Crystal probably can attest to, is with all this equity work we're doing, we don't really have anything that's focusing on early childhood, and that's really one of the most important things we can do, is reach out to preschool teachers, Head Start teachers, home visitors, to see things through an equity lens. So just keep your fingers crossed for us, because they can only pick a certain number of teams. We've got a great group of people. There's people, I think there's someone from the health department there. Oh yeah, Dana Watson is also, writing her application for it. And it would be Dana and myself. There's a woman that runs a daycare center in Lansing that used to, that has a lot of history with early childhood, and it's just a great team, and we're really hoping we get picked. So put out some good vibes for us and keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll know by next month. And I'll just like to keep you all informed about that as that process moves on, but that's something that's really important to me and I'm very excited about, so.
All right, is Vice Chair Crystal, did you have a comment or concern?
It's not really, yeah, I guess it's a comment, but Ms. Hardy, I just wanted to just note that when you were talking about the Warden Center, I don't know if you knew that, that I was a student that kind of uncovered that display, and quite frankly, I've still been working within a university on issues of cultural humility, racial competency, racial literacy. That's something that's been talking and coming up. And I don't know if there's any interest or if you are partnering with the steering committee with this new chief DEI officer with the university on what some of their initiatives and focus will be. But there's more work to be done. And right now within the College of Social Science, and more specifically within the School of Social Work, I have developed kind of advisory task force. We're called the Social Work Action Collective, that is acting as an accountability body focusing on curriculum revision to ensure that future practitioners, of the social work practice come out of the program with skills to address issues of race and power and privilege. And so, I'm here as a resource. I'm here to support the cause, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dunn. And I'll go last here before we get out of here. Just bear with me, please. Even though May is National Americans Facing Mental Health Awareness Month, I just want to say this is National Mental Health Awareness Week right now, from the 4th to the 10th. There's millions of people who are directly or indirectly affected through this, family, friends, coworkers, and the privilege and the stigmas and the misunderstanding that are going with that. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up to you guys, just as a food for thought. I've already talked about this. There will be an I did speak with the Michigan State Police Department last week or the week before, just trying to establish a relationship with them, and just really talk with them and have discussions about what they're doing well, what they could improve upon. They were very open to the dialogue. I look forward to meeting with them going forward. And they seem like they'd be very open to maybe coming and talking with us in regards to what they are doing. They have some different things they're doing with the use of force and how they log in with their system that I would love to be able to integrate here with our East Lansing Police Department. And some of you already know we're going to be having a continuation of the disorderly conduct resolution that we worked on that went up to council, came back. So next week on the 15th, we will be tweaking that, I guess, for them to be able to wrap their heads around passing that thing. So we'll update you on that. And then lastly, and most importantly, as some of you know, Jonathan Price was killed last Saturday. He was breaking up a domestic dispute, and he was shot by public safety officials breaking up that domestic dispute. He was a motivational speaker. He was an advocate of policing, community policing, ironically, and unfortunately, he has lost his life. I have found that the officer, if you don't know already, has been just recently charged, I think the day before yesterday. So I also wanted to bring his name up into the conversation, and just let you guys know, if you didn't know, that was the latest what was going on. And that's all I had for my commissioner comments and concerns. Is there anything else before we cut out of here? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Vice Chair Dunn. Is there a second?
Second.
We out of here. I apologize, guys, for going over. I know we had this debate tonight. Good luck to you, and we'll talk soon. And please get that information to Mrs. Hardy as soon as possible so we can get that thing fired off. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks all. Good night.